Welcome back to the Killah Cortez Show, officially the 10th episode of the KC Show, and we have a special one. The following is an interview with the band, Now More Than Ever. After spending the past 20 years in the studio, on concert stages all over the world, and at the literal top of the charts, All American Rejects co-founder Tyson Ritter didn't start Now More Than Ever in 2018 with the expectation it would turn into a real band. But a real band is very much what it has become. In tandem with veteran musicians, songwriter, producers Scott Chesak and Izzy Fontaine, Ritter has begun a meaningful and exciting new chapter in his music career with Now More Than Ever's debut album, Creatrix. To hear Ritter tell it, All American Rejects' relationship with the traditional music industry was in many ways the reason he was eager to try something different, simply making music with friends for fun, without any preconceived notions about what would, could, or should happen next. In other words, no constraints, no A&Rs, no deadlines, and no mandate to sound like anyone or anything other than themselves. Now More Than Ever is here to help make sure the pillars of pop and rock will never fall, and they're prepared to go down believing. Now More Than Ever is Scott Chesak, Izzy Fontaine, and Tyson Ritter. I've known Scott for many years, first as a collaborator and now a dear friend. I still remember hearing whispers of his new project with Tyson and Izzy back in 2018. Fast forward, and Now More Than Ever is officially off the launch pad and is accelerating at a breakneck speed. They sold out the Echo in LA earlier this year, along with a sold-out It's a School Night at Bardot, to now playing the 2023 When We Were Young festival in Las Vegas, joining the bill alongside festival headliners like Green Day and Blink-182. As I was assembling this episode, I caught myself many times just soaking in the collective wisdom of these three fine gentlemen. The passion for the art is obvious. I interviewed Now More Than Ever remotely from their homes and the All American Rejects Wet Hot Summer Tour soundcheck. You can find the show notes, links, and a full transcription of this episode in the description below. You can also find a link to the Killah Cortez Discord where we chat all things KC. Sprinkled in between the segments of this episode are songs from my Songs for the Apocalypse playlist, some of which were chosen by Now More Than Ever. You can find the link for this playlist in the description below, and lastly, you can also find this episode on YouTube. However, it will be without the music between the segments. If you like what I do, please be sure to give me a 5-star rating on Spotify or a follow, comment on YouTube. Without further delay, enjoy this interview with Now More Than Ever. What is something that you believe that other people think is insane?
What is something that we believe that other people think is insane?
It can be a we or it can be an I.
I think just all of us, pursuing music as a living, a lot of people think that's insane,
Yeah.
They're like, you want to do what with your life? It's like,
why? That doesn't make any sense.
Oh my God. I resonate with that. I have an aunt that still asks me like every year at Thanksgiving, she'll be like, oh, you still doing your little music? It happens.
Yeah, that is cute.
Yeah, it's cute.
Yeah, it takes a long time for people to recognize that it's a real thing. You could be years into a career and your aunt or your mom or whoever is just like, so when are you going to get a real job?
Yeah. So let's talk about Now More Than Ever. How did the project get its start?
Well, you know what? It was kind of just born out of this desire to just start creating without any expectations. And there was no idea for a band. It was just, what happens if music is just created? And it's not, this industry or the business has like gone into this kind of homogenized direction in general. Where everybody gets together with this destination in mind. Let's write a song for this. Let's write a song for this person. Let's, being in this industry and coming up in the bands, like with Izzy coming up, playing for, and with so many great bands, and Scotty and I just meeting through playing with the Rejects, like there was something that was kind of lost along the way, which was, you start serving this machine instead of yourself and your own growth. So Now More Than Ever was kind of born out of this like pure desire to create without expectation. And as songs started collecting themselves, we found Izzy along the way, and it was just really natural where he came in and we wrote probably one of our collective favorite songs on the record, Heels Up, Head Over. And it happened in an afternoon. And then it was done. And I remember when I first started writing music, and I think maybe I speak for everybody, but that feeling in the room, or that feeling in your stomach where you know you're doing something that is magic. And going back to your question about what you think is insane, I think writing music, I think the feeling that you summon being pure magic, I believe it is magic. And I think that word's so fucking vague, but it's like when you write a great song, it's like the closest thing to having an audience with God is, or whatever, the universe, the creator, whatever you want to call it, whatever deity you put up there to identify something bigger than yourself. You know what I mean? Like, it's and this was
Agreed,
and this. Well, and I know that's like putting a lot of gravitas on this, but now more than ever was
for real.
Basically, we wanted to all find our purpose again.
That's really cool, because you kind of skipped ahead to a question I was going to ask, and I'm just going to bump it up to now. So independently, each of you have been part of the creation process for some really big records, whether it's Izzy with Banks, Scott with Weezer, and Tyson with All American Rejects. Is there a feeling or a tingle or something that you guys get? Like, what does that feel like? What's something that when you listen back, you know, you're like, oh, damn, this is going to pop off?
Well, I can say one specific instance of what Tyson was talking about. Like, one of our favorite songs on our record, Heels Up, Head Over, was the first one where all three of us were in the room. And that was like a super magical moment. I just remember like getting the groove down of the chorus. Because when you're like working on a song, it's kind of like you're chipping away a little bit. You don't really know. It's not fully formed yet. It's kind of like if you were making a sculpture and it's just a piece of marble at first, and you're just chipping away, and it just looks like a mangled up piece of marble, and then all of a sudden you see a face and it just pops out. Mm-hmm. That was the moment when we were in the chorus and it just started clicking, and Izzy was laying down his parts. You know, everybody was just clicking, and it was amazing.
Yeah, I saw you guys at Bardo, and that one especially went super hard. Love that. So I'll ask this question to Izzy. In a time where bands are less and less a thing, where like it might look like a band, it might smell like a band, but it's not a band. It's like a person who is surrounded by people. Like, you guys are actually a band. You create together. You riff off of each other's ideas. How do you feel you complement each other to make this artistic equilibrium?
Great question.
I feel like we are so different as human beings and so on the same page as artists that it creates this really interesting perspective shift where, for me personally, seeing something through Tyson's eyes, what it just in life, like just as somebody who's really as Tyson observes the world and creates art, he's going to pick up on different things that I wouldn't. And same thing with Scott. They both pick up on things that I'm not tuned into. So being able to play off of that is really special, because me by myself, I won't follow something. I might hear something that I'm playing and think like, okay, cool. But when Tyson hears it, he goes, wait, hang on. Okay, keep going on that section right there. Scott comes, oh, wait, this is a really special moment. And then all of a sudden they've created something out of something that I kind of was just playing around with. Then once that happens, I'm able to react from that and to add in my different flair. And then watching that everybody react in those moments, there's something that just happens. It's the magic. That's the thing. So I think everyone being exactly who they are and reacting with each other is a very I keep coming back to magic, but that's the thing. That's the magic.
Yeah, totally. Scott, Tyson, anything else to add to that?
I think it's like Voltron. You know,
That's a great way to put it.
somebody is an arm, somebody's a leg, somebody's a head. And I'm not going to place anybody as to which they are. It's more just about the sum of all parts. And, you know, there are bands you hear about all the time, you know. Some bands, you got two heads. Some bands, you got two left legs, and it fucking trips itself up, or it doesn't walk, or it thinks too much. And it gets in its own way. And, you know, maybe that band is just a moment that lasts for a second and dissolves. But I feel like where we complement each other, sort of piggybacking on what Izzy says, we all have a functionality that is compensating for what maybe the other person or people in the band aren't necessarily strongest at. Or just bolstering the confidence that what the other person thinks that, you know, we're a bunch of insecure artists. So like when Izzy, you know, laid down, no, that's a great example. Like Izzy laid down a bunch of guitar lines and he was like, I just put all my ideas down. And I was like, I listened to them all. I was like, they all complimented each other. They all belonged. They were all correct. And I was like, well, it's not about picking one, Izzy. I was like, you literally just orchestrated the entire thing. And he was like, oh, really? I was like, yeah, dude. Like literally, you just, you naturally, you have this incredible ability. He's like, oh, tight. But I think not only did doing this record like make us realize where we kind of all belong together, but it also like, you know, just collaborating with other musicians, you realize what your strengths are, and it bolsters your confidence into the next song.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, it definitely shows, and I will say that the sound of the record, it's distinctly you guys, and you can definitely tell like there's influences, but it is one certain sound, which I think is more and more rare these days. What do you guys think of the state of the music industry for bands in 2023? Is there any advice or wisdom you dispense to people in bands coming up?
That's a tough one. That is a tough one. It's such a crazy landscape that has changed so much. I mean, I guess like a band coming up, like these days you have to be on socials. You just like have to kill it at socials. It's the necessary evil.
Mm.
Yeah.
What about like on the creative side? What would you tell them? Like who are feeling the pressure of like, say they're feeling the pressure of doing the socials, but they're still trying to be true to themselves.
I think one thing that I've learned over the years is like, don't take all the advice. So, you know, including mine that I might give right now. There's a lot of people that are like, you should do this, you should do that. You need to be focusing here. And I think like it's very, very important for everyone to find their own path, just in life in general. Find out what matters to you and go for it, and have the courage to just be like, okay, I know that piece of advice worked for you, but I'm very passionate about this and I just want to make this type of music. And I think that's really important because if you're just like following trends or whatever, it's a losing game.
Yeah. Either you guys or go for it, Tyson.
I think most people, and this is probably like byproduct of this connectivity and social media and the fact that everybody's watching everybody else. Success, the destination has been the most important thing now. It's not about the travel to get wherever you're going, which is really what it's all about. But now everyone's comes up to you and says, how do you make it? Well, it's like, when you make it, you actually, like, you're asking a question that's telling you the answer. There's like, you can't just expect to arrive at the destination. You know, there's no teleportation in music. You have to create at a ferocity that is nowadays superhuman. You can't look forward. You know, the future is always going to arrive as the present. So quit fucking asking yourself how you're making it. You know, quit considering it. Just continue the pursuit, man. And it's the hardest thing. It's the fucking hardest thing, right? It's like I started painting recently, and it's a conversation with yourself in a real visual way, as opposed to just playing. And every piece you make, just like a song, is self-effacing. And if you just stop after writing one song and be like, cool, now that I got my song, I'm going to put it up on SoundCloud and start asking people how I'm going to make it now. Well, you haven't even made enough to make it. Create.
Tyson, you of course have been the longtime frontman for All American Rejects. How does it feel to have all these firsts again with Now More Than Ever? Are you enjoying the ride up the elevator in a different way from the first time with the Rejects?
I'm enjoying it through the eyes of Izzy and Scotty. You know, we're making music videos for the first time, and I'm watching these guys who have never done that before and like have this childlike wonder into it, going, wow, it's like, you mean it's like sort of guys that are finding their identity for the first time in a visual format, as opposed to just being just the magicians off in the shadows. You know, I think it's cool seeing them stand out in the light, and I'm having that first through the reflection of them, which is even more of a gift, you know. Hanging out with your friends and watching them do something that, you know, maybe it was a dream at one point, and then they're like, hey man, I get to be adjacent to it, or I get to party along with it, so it's cool. But then now it's like, now they're the thing, and it's really funny watching the discomfort and excitement.
A lot of discomfort, yeah.
I was gonna say for Scott and Izzy, is it different having more skin on the line?
Yeah,
for sure.
We're going from an to the.
Yeah.
So, you know, in other things, other projects, I'm a producer, I'm a songwriter, I'm a keyboard player. But in this project, I'm the keyboard player. I'm the songwriter, you know.
Yep.
The band member. So it's a way different perspective, and it's completely like changed how I think about music and how music is presented, because, you know, I write a lot of songs kind of in a vacuum and pitch it to other artists, and then they release it and present it to the world. But I'm discovering how important that presentation is, and how the audience can't just receive a song in a vacuum. There needs to be a messenger, and the messenger needs to be right, and the message needs to align. And it's really fun discovering that.
That's cool. What have been like your, let's call it first day at school moments? What have been the moments where you're just like, oh my God, I didn't know it was going to be this rad until I got here, but this is crazy.
Honestly, it was playing that show, and in a moment realizing that I wasn't just a side member, that this was something that we helped build from the ground up, from nothing to here at this moment. And to be in that kind of situation was something I really hadn't felt in that capacity before. You know, I'd been in bands before, but hadn't taken it all the way from beginning to the performance side of it with the record and everything as what my roles were. So that was a huge piece.
I think for me, even like, to me, this whole thing was building up to just playing the echo, right?
Yeah.
Like, I thought it,
Totally.
like it probably could have stopped. And for all intents and purposes, I think we kind of expected it would, like, at least like, because we're all insecure artists. So it's like, cool, we played the echo. It was, we sold out the echo. The show was like a dream. Like, honestly, for as little as we prepared, as sort of, as much as we just walked into it, kind of just guessing our way through, pissing in the wind a little bit, it went off like a fucking family reunion or something. Like, it just felt like the room, and this is LA, mind you, it was just a room filled with love.
Yeah.
and it could have stopped right there. So like every step after this, the fact that we're gonna play 2 shows in Vegas, we texted the other day. We were like, we're playing When We Were Young festival, and it's like, what?
Yeah.
Like, we skipped we jumped the line a bit. A lot of bands don't get to jump the line like this. So, those people that might be listening and saying, fuck these guys. Well, it's like, yeah, you have every right to say that. Like but also know that we are humbled by the opportunity to jump the line. And, we're going to scoop some extra mashed potatoes for everybody behind us, man. Like, we're not taking it for granted. We're we're constantly humbled by this.
Well, that's a great point too. And also just a good lesson for anyone who's young who's listening. It's just like, all right, maybe they get to jump the line, but also collectively you've all have put in so much work that tangentially this project can benefit from. So it's not like you guys are starting exactly from the beginning, but there's still that new car smell.
Totally.
Yeah.
Question kind of for all of you, and it doesn't necessarily have to be band related. One thing that I like to kind of talk about, how has failure or apparent failure set you up for later success? And do you have a favorite failure of yours that kind of ended up, it like sucked at the time, but turned into this thing that you would have never expected that really benefited your life?
I mean, it's funny. Like, I think I heard there's a lot of quotes out there like this, but it's like, the failures, you have to fail, because if all you had was success, then you would just be conditioned to that as a normal way. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Failing sucks. Everybody knows that. You always just want to win, but I think the expectations that we put on this, it's hard to tamper them. It's hard to tell them to like. It's hard to not want to just fully succeed in every pursuit, but it's like, I think failure, everybody says it. Failure molds you. Failure shapes you to be, to be grateful in the moments of triumph. And yeah, that rings true. But I mean, like, failure also pisses you off and totally makes you doubt yourself twice as much as you ever have. And, failure does a lot of shitty things as well. So, I mean, fuck it. You're asking like a question that says, hey, are you human? It's like, yes, we are, very much. And more so because we're empathic artists that hate themselves more often than not and fight that beast inside our brains that says you're not good enough, maybe twice as much as the average person. So yeah, man, when you do something new and you're naked and you're presenting yourself like we did with this, I mean, all I had was doubt, and hope. And those are really 2 opposing forces to carry in 2 different hands. Hope is pulling you up and doubt is pushing you down. It's truly a manic depressive experience for manic depressive people.
And it also depends on what your measure of success is, because if the measure of success is like, we're just some friends making some music and it's saved on our hard drive and we get to listen to it together and we're happy, wow, then you do that, great. If it's to release music at all, that's huge. If it's to play a show, oh my God, we did it. We won. We did it all the way. Like that, when we didn't have any expectation of success being anything other than what we've achieved. So it's like everything from here out is like extra bonus features.
Yeah, there's just a lot of times in life where you think you've failed, but maybe your expectations were a little incorrect. Maybe, and expectations are you just trying to control the future. You were expecting it to sell this many. You were expecting to play this venue instead of that venue. You wanted this show to sell out. But like, at the end of the day, sometimes I'll look back and be like, no, the creation of of those songs, the creation of that music, that was the success. And I don't need anything else beyond that.
Yeah, to Tyson's point earlier, I think trying to put your head down and get the work done, and just for the sake of creation and letting go of the outcome, seems like the right path, and doing it for the right reasons.
But also, just to interject, to anybody who might be listening to this, like, it's also the bullshit we feed ourselves to fuck it, just the same way, like, not bullshit, but it's like, it's a great idea, right? It's like a meditation. Like, like this mantra, I'm going to be abso-fucking-lutely, I'm going to be the best me I am today. Well, it's a guide, but there's a human element that's missing. There's a huge human element that's missing from all the good intentions in the world, right? It's like almost good intentions were written by robots that have no sort of doubt about themselves. And so, for anybody who's listening is like, oh, these assholes are just saying create just for the sake of, and don't put expectations. Hey, man, that's the idea. It's so fucking hard. Did I have expectations for this? Oh, absolutely. Did I want this thing to come out of the box and just fucking blow the whole everybody's hair back, and like people say, holy shit, now more than ever? Absolutely, because that's what you do. You do. It's the sleeping giant lives inside of your brain that goes, but what if? What if?
Yeah.
What if the magic we felt was exploded like a puddle beneath us and we wet the bed of America? Like, yeah, but that I just want, I'm not saying it as a moment of self-doubt, but just to impress upon people that, like, you are absolutely allowed to crack and to but if you shatter, that's where you lose, man. But if you have people around you to keep the shards of you together, to be a reflection of strength, even by collective.
Honestly, that's our text thread. That's our text thread, for real. I feel like I don't know. Everyone's seen me crack in there once or twice. Like, there's some real self-doubt and things that come in, and like, hey, we're
and that's the take home, right? Is he like, having been in this shit as long as we have, this doubt has been fostered through this process.
Yeah.
So if you come up through this is what it's like on the other side, man. It's a fucking self-effacing siege of doubt that is navigated by the keel of moments of discovery and realization that you are doing something good, and it's all you know how to do.
You just keep sustaining those little moments.
Yep, totally.
Yeah, I love the raw honesty of that answer from all you guys. So Scott and I know each other really well, probably the most. But I is more of a producer engineer as well, and I started my own project recently, and I really relate to this because there's soul-crushing doubt that does come into you when it is your skin on the line. And so a lot of this is actually me just like hearing other creatives, hearing their methods and what they do, and hopefully trying to share that with other people. And so thank you for sharing all that, because it's something that definitely enters my mind as I'm creating stuff. Like, the minute I hit send on something, I'm just like, it's terrible, but then the other voice in the back of my head has to kick in and be like, nah, dude, keep going, it's cool.
Yeah, if anything, I'd love to, like, I think navigating the conversation towards how do you approach when doubt has always been a passenger? Like, how do you approach the next idea? And to me, it's like the biggest thing I can fucking impress upon anybody is the moment you consider what you're doing, if you're doing it in that moment, is the moment it starts to die in your hands. So just do your best to quit considering what you're doing. Like, it's funny. It's like it's a very like Confucius kind of saying. Like, it's just never consider yourself. Never consider the music in your hands until you think you're just done adding to it. And then you can consider it because it's done. But the death of creativity has been consideration in the moment of, because then you'll stop and turn around, or you'll let go and you'll lose it, and the muse will fly out the window as fast as she came in.
you guys are going to be playing When We Were Young. How stoked are you guys to be hitting that? And this is the first time for this band, right?
Yeah, for sure. We've only played a couple of shows. It's an interesting idea for us to do it because we also, the team is just real close friends. Like we're not a whole huge, production that's been doing this on the road for years. It's a new project for all of us, and so we're all just figuring out how to make this happen with ourselves. And it's been a really fun to step into those roles as well. So it's been exciting and learning a lot. But
what's the worst advice you guys see being dispensed to young creatives these days?
It's not really what advice I've seen. It's what I think has evolved again as a byproduct of the adjacency of self-promotion via social media and music, and it's turning people into objects. People are now brands. Kids are brands. Get your brand straight. If I hear fucking people say, "What is your brand? What's your story?" I don't know, man. Imagine if they asked bands what their story was or what their brand was. I feel like that's like, it used to just be presented and everybody that dug it wanted to put on the drip that looked like it. And instead it's like the worst advice I'm seeing distilled is what are you before what do you sound like? It used to just be what do you sound like? Because everybody's looking for labels, right? Like, when alternative music came out, it was like, alternative to what? It was like, just another silly label, like pop music. Well, Nirvana was pop because they were fucking popular, but it's pop music is just a label for things that everybody likes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
it's
yeah,
always shifting.
I think identity being associated with music before the anybody's press play. People getting kids having to look at themselves and consider who they are before they've written about who they are, or before they've written a record that maybe explains to themselves who they are. For me, music told me something about myself after it. I didn't know who I was and then wrote. Some people do, but I wrote to find myself. I still do, man.
Yeah.
So I think the saddest thing that's happening right now is kids are trying to answer questions like, who am I? When you don't answer those questions till you're fucking 60. And it's because you've lived a life that has given you all the salt on your back to shake off into a fucking your hands and stare into it. It's yeah.
Yeah, 60 or if ever. And one thing that I'll add is I think like it kind of goes against what the original intention of a record was. Like a record used to actually be like a recording of this moment in time. And to your point, it's like how can you record a moment in time if you're so worried about crafting the moment, curating this thing instead of just being a thing and then recording that moment?
Yeah,
exactly. And that's why oh, sorry, Izzy.
Oh, I was just gonna say like the landscape's so different too, that everything that it was from the past doesn't necessarily apply anymore. So if the goal for someone like a creative is to just be famous, it's like fame doesn't mean the same thing that it meant 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago. So some of the worst advice you can give is to try to get famous, because that can kill your creativity so quickly.
It's destination. Yeah, it's all about the destination now. It's all about arriving somewhere before you even put on your shoes.
The journey is the whole thing. Yeah.
What about you, Scott? You have any thoughts on that question?
To piggyback on Izzy, I do see like a lot of artists that, yes, their goal is to be famous, and they're not musicians first. They're attention seeking first, and then music is just a vessel for that. And I just want to emphasize that music is not meant to just be a vessel for fame. And if you're just trying to capitalize off of, well, I do makeup videos on TikTok and I have 3 million followers, and this label is offering me an 18-wheeler truck of money to sign with them, it's like, it's just kind of shitting on the whole craft because they don't really care.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you're in it, like, you should be in it. You should love it. You should have no other choice. It's not like you shouldn't even have to like question like, it should just be like, no, this is me no matter what.
Yeah. It's the only way to have the resilience to deal with how terrible it is. But those magic moments are so worth it, but only if you like have to do it.
Yeah, it's something that I see it's kind of a dichotomy, is that I think on the higher end of the music spectrum, when it comes to the labels, there's this massive pressure to appeal to this attention economy. But then I also notice on like the more indie side of like Spotify, there is a lot of basement artists who are just being themselves, and they're able to make like a very fine middle class living, and nobody knows who they are. They're just getting a ton of like Spotify algorithm stuff. And so I mean, I kind of do think that if people can get over the idea that they need to give in to this TikTok thing, attention thing, that there is a world that can happen where, you put out music and it just grows, just kind of like how it did before.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
If you could put a message in a song that would get guaranteed 24/7 top 40 radio rotation, what message would you send to the masses?
I mean, it's very tropey, but I think it's also where the reason music has been this unifier. And it's like, and it's funny, maybe when I was younger, I used to think it was cheesy when I heard all you need is love. But it's like, I feel like it's not even that anymore. It's just maybe just a message that just says don't be hateful. Like, our whole society is now fostered on hate. Like, it's not about unity anymore. It's just about division, and hate is the medicine for division. And it's getting worse every day, because it's keeping us all in place. Like, in our, the craziest thing is, and maybe this is a little bit too, it's not politicized at all. It's just me saying, like, the world doesn't want us all to connect because the world wants to control us. And so hatred is the greatest thing to keep us under control. So I think, yeah, if I were to be able to like have a song just fucking completely transcend and have an impact and do heal the world, kind of Michael Jackson kind of status.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it would just be fucking, you don't need hate, It's and it's funny, man. It's so cheesy to say. I feel stupid saying it. Isn't that funny? How like how universal love is so, like, even I've been conditioned to think it's kind of dumb.
Yeah.
Sucks.
Well, I was going to add to that. I was going to say that it could be social conditioning that we're so kind of like, I don't know. I know for myself, coming up to like high school and whatnot, it was so lame to give into those concepts and ideas. And now, like, when I see it as a genuine message, then you can tell, and it really connects.
Yep.
What about you guys, Izzy and Scott?
Yeah, I mean, I fully believe that. And to take it even further, I guess, I mean, yeah, if I have a message to give to the world, that the top 40 song, it would be like forgiveness. These are big concepts, and so I would, try to wrap it up into something people might be able to dance to. But yeah, love and forgiveness, those real big hippie concepts, but things that I need to be reminded of constantly. So I would try to share that with others in a way that they could relate to.
Yeah, Mr. Chesak.
It's so tough because you know, when I'm writing personally, I like to just turn off my brain and let the subconscious take over and like find messages, discover things about myself through that. So it's like I've never really gone into a song with like a pre-planned, like there's definitely concept ideas that sometimes I'll go in with, but it's more a discovery of myself, and you're kind of digging, and the meaning presents itself to you, and a lot of times it can be a meaning that is interpreted many ways. So just the concept of like getting a message out there. I love the question though, and I think I would just probably piggyback on these other two hippies and say love is a pretty good message to have, and
Kumbaya.
And stop hate, because I think
but no, answer the question.
Well, I said I think I agree with you guys. Because
No, but push. I want you to push harder. I'm curious. If you could get a message out to the top 40, what would it be? Just any message. Just now, ask to spit from your subconscious 40 and slip it out.
Well, I think in order to attain the kumbaya and the big earthly group hug, you first have to start with self-love, and I think that would be a more specific message that I would like to get across to people, is because I think a lot of this hate, a lot of this division is because of that. And you're just seeing like the outward trappings of like a self-hatred when they impose their hate on other people.
Mm-hmm.
Love it. Because I think that's also, I wanted you to answer that question personally, because I was picking up on the fact that we all hate ourselves. Like, isn't that funny? Like, it's just really funny, man, how artists are all birds of a feather, man. Most artists I know, you dig through the ego and the facade, and in there is just someone who just really fucking hates themselves and lives for the moments that they don't. That's really bleak, but it's like, if that's your truth, which it is for me more often than not, like, music is the only vessel that gets me out of my own way.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this whole podcast, we've been talking about like doubt and all that kind of internal struggle. And we just all, if you're in the arts in any capacity, or just people in general, even if you're an accountant, you have self-doubt all day, every day.
Yeah. Well, and it also comes from like, I personally just hate the facade. Like I hate the thing that a lot of artists will throw out, that it's like, it's all just magically happened. It's like, nah, dude, that's not the reality. Let's talk about reality a little bit. And so that's kind of why I like to dig into these topics, because like you were saying, Tyson, like everyone has these stories, everyone has these doubts. And I think it's important for other creatives to know that. Where can the people find you guys, and what can you guys plug that's coming up?
We have all of the socials, the Instagrams, the TikToks, the YouTubes, the Spotify, all of the current hip spots. Just search Now More Than Ever
band. Yep.
Playing the When We Were Young festival,
October 21st and 22nd.
Yep. And just out here on the internet.
And we got a new music video coming soon.
True.
For a little song called Candle. It's in the editing process right now. They'll be on YouTube soon. And we have a bunch of other amazing music videos that we're like.
And check out the record Creatrix, which has all of them in one convenient location.
Awesome.
You can get it on vinyl. You can stream it.
That's true. Yeah, we have stuff that you can purchase that is also on our website.
Yeah, plug the swag.
Be a part of the game.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear what else you guys put out. And thank you guys so much for taking the time to come on. And we'll see you soon.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, man.
Once again, thank you to Now More Than Ever for coming on the KC Show. Go check out their Spotify to hear their debut LP, Creatrix. You can find other episodes of the Killah Cortez Show, my socials, show notes, links, and a full transcription of this episode at thekillahcortezshow.com. You can listen to my music, buy some merch, or show your support over at killahcortez.com. You can also show support for the show by giving us a 5-star rating on Spotify or a like or a comment on YouTube. Thank you for listening, and until next time, adios.